If it's alright.
Shine, we are chrome, and we are shimmering. Turn on, turn on. Play. Sweet.
Oh, yeah. To the burning, to the burning. Hold up. All right, well, welcome, guys. This is another episode of Gears of War Rostermania. As you guys all know, I'm not your usual host. I do like to party. I do like to dance. That's usually how I start each and every episode of Gears of War Rostermania. So I appreciate you guys sticking around for the first 3 or 4 minutes of me dancing, looking completely ridiculous in my chair. I can assure you I dance a little better when I actually have the chance. Obviously, I'm in a chair. I'm extremely limited. I'm not really able to do what I want to do. But, whatever, that's going to do for tonight. Like I said, guys, this is another episode of Gears of War Rostermania. We have a very specific cast tonight, a guest, I could say. We have an esports attorney. His name is Justin, and he works for the Jacobson firm. Now, as you guys all know, there's attorneys everywhere. I mean, I work with them. I know a whole bunch of them. Some are cool, some are not, but hey, that's an attorney. It's a pretty boring job. Unfortunately, it is what it is. But we got Justin Jacobson tonight. He's a member of the bar of the state of New York, which is pretty cool. He's the vice president at the Jacobson firm. He advises entertainers, professional athletes, and I guess you could say video gamers or esports gamers, as well as fashion designers, on all aspects of marketing, business, intellectual property, and contract law matters. He also acts as an esports player representative, handling player contracts and sponsorship negotiations on behalf of esports gamers, streamers, and content creators. Now, if that isn't interesting for you guys, I don't know what else is. I mean, this guy does it all. He covers esports in general. He covers gamers. He covers content creators. He covers streamers. I guess I could consider myself a content creator, a streamer, as well as an esports player. So I thought it was awesome to come and bring Justin on the show. Kind of give you guys more of a legal matter behind gaming instead of just esports players that I bring on here. Not to say that they're not interesting or cool to talk to, but it is cool to bring in the legal matters into gaming. So I thought that was pretty cool to have him on here tonight. So I welcome Justin to all you guys. Like I said, check him out on Twitter, Justin J Esquire, well ESQ for all you guys that don't know that, and also the firm, Jacobson Firm. Second, I have Gorable, a.k.a. Cody, good friend of mine, one of the co-owners of FableGG, the #1 European team. He's going to be on here tonight talking about the All Access Esports Gears show. He was on there yesterday. I don't know too much about it. I actually wasn't able to catch the show, unfortunately. A little busy. My schedule has been busy for the last month or so, especially with the holidays coming up. So I wasn't able to catch the All Access show, but Cody was on there. So I thought it was pretty cool to bring Cody on here. I know he has a lot to say. I haven't had Cody on here, I would say a month plus. Cody hasn't been on the show. So we have a lot to talk about, a lot to go over. Cody is one of the, I guess you could say, the most professional and also one of the guys that knows what he's actually talking about when it comes to business as well as esports. He was a player before, and now he's an org owner, and he also has other stuff in his personal life as well that also helps him become the individual that he is. So I welcome Cody once again. Then next up, we have the December 17th Esports Gears 2K wrap-up. As you guys already know, Optic Gaming won. Unfortunately, they won again. I think this is like the 4th or 5th time they won. It's getting a little boring. The matchup was pretty exciting. They did play Echo Fox this past weekend in the finals. I have all the scores for you guys, all the pictures. I also have the current standings for North America, which is pretty cool to keep you guys up to date. Obviously, if you're not keeping up on Twitter, if you're not keeping up on the Gears.gg website, that's why you guys come here. I give you all the information you need so that you don't have to waste your time scrolling through things and looking it up. I'm basically your Adam Schaefer, or Schefter, whatever his name is, of Gears of War. And I enjoy it. I like to talk, as you guys all know, especially for the people that know me personally. I'm a huge talker. And if you don't know that yet, we probably aren't friends. But yeah, whatever. And then lastly, of course, guys, Gears of War Rostermania is live next Thursday, 12/28 at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Once again, twitch.tv/NJCubano. I'm live every Thursday. If I'm not live on a Thursday, it's usually because I have something work-related, something in my personal life came up, or I'm just lazy and I want to do it on a Thursday, which doesn't really make sense because regardless, I have to do it. But as always, make sure you guys follow the stream, top right of your screen. Twitch.tv/NJCubano. You're obviously watching this right now if you're here, so make sure you do that. And also follow me on Twitter at NJCubano. Lastly, I forgot to mention, tonight I also have Dan, aka War Dog, one of the guys who has been nothing but awesome help to me with Gears of War RosterMania. You know, it's not an easy job. It is kind of like a part-time job for me. So I try to keep up with it as much as I can. And Dan's going to be on here tonight talking with most of my guests, as well as going over the 2K wrap-up. Dan and I do a really, really good job of, you know, bouncing ideas off of each other and so forth. And it also helps and makes it more entertaining when I have somebody else to talk to. And you guys aren't just looking at me the whole time. Granted, you know, I am somebody, you know, pretty cute to look at. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, that's a biased opinion, obviously, and most of you guys know me personality wise, especially when I was gaming. I mean, I was definitely the best looking gamer, the best trash talk, and I could just keep going. So without further ado, we're gonna try to get right into it, guys. But like I said, if you guys are just tuning in, first guest of the night is an esports attorney. Pretty interesting stuff. His name is Justin, and he works for the Jacobson firm. So let's try to get him in on here. That's going to be the first guest of the night. If you guys have any questions, concerns, topics, ideas, anything, if you could think about it, make sure you guys go ahead and put it on the chat, just so I know if you guys have any questions. You know, Justin is a very interesting guy to have here on the show, so you guys want to be able to take the advantage to, you know, talk to him, which is pretty cool. And you guys talk to him through me. So without further ado, let me go ahead and call Justin. Hopefully he's ready. Most of the time my guests are usually spot on, but there's always a chance I take. What's happening?
Hello?
Hey, how's it going, Justin? You there? You hear me?
Hello?
Hello, Justin? Hello? I can hear you. I hear you loud and clear, Justin.
Hello?
Yeah, Justin, you hear me? Hello? I hear you. I hear you.
Hello?
Yeah, Justin, you hear me? Do you guys hear Justin by any chance? Everybody in the chat, do you guys hear Justin?
Hello?
Yeah. Hello? Yeah, Justin, you hear me?
No.
I hear you.
Okay.
I hear you.
Wonderful. Then that's good.
You can hear me, right? Hello? Yeah, Justin, you hear me?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, cool. All right. So, guys, this is Justin. Like I said, he works for the Jacobson firm. Do you guys hear Justin by any chance? Everybody in the chat? Oh, he's delayed. Do you guys hear Justin? Hello? Yeah. Hello? Yeah, Justin, you hear me? Justin, no. You're really delayed. I hear you. I hear you. Wonderful. Then that's good. You hear me, right?
Yes.
Hello? You gotta mute the stream. Yeah, I'm here. All right, cool. It's delayed. All right. So, guys, this is Justin. Like I said, he works for the Jacobson firm. Do you guys hear Justin? By any chance? Everybody in the chat, he's delayed. I think you got to change the sound device on your computer. Hello? Yeah, Justin, you hear me? No, you're really delayed. I hear you. Wonderful. That's good. You hear me, right? Yes. You gotta be straight. Yeah, I'm here. Alright, cool. It's delayed. Alright. It's so guys, this is just like I said, he works for the Jacobson. It's delayed. This is comedy.
Wow, this is really...
Yeah, you can't hear me. You have to go into your settings on Skype. This is awesome. You have to go into settings on Skype and fix it. This is awesome. This is awesome.
Do what?
I can't hear you. It's delayed. All right. I'm sorry, guys. I apologize for that. Let me go ahead and get Dan Wardog on here. We'll fix this. We'll fix this. I promise. That was awesome. Justin, if you're in the chat, you have to go into your Skype settings and fix that, like ASAP. I'm sorry, Justin.
Hello?
Yo. That was wild.
Hello, my brother.
What's up? Oh my goodness.
I don't hear you. This is bad news. This is bad news, Gabe.
Uh-oh. Do you hear me?
Gabe, I don't hear you. This is bad news. See, you're the one messing up the show. It's not the guests. It's you.
This is awesome. Alright.
Oh my god, you did it.
You hear me?
Dude, I was worried that it was me, but it was you. It was you the whole time.
This is awesome. That's how I like to start it, though. That was good. That was fun. I'm glad that happened, actually.
Oh, man.
That was awesome. All right, guys. So we're going to try to get back to Justin. Maybe it was me. Actually, why don't we go ahead and call him? We have to come back to this. This is great. Go ahead and call him. It's going to be good.
All right. Everybody say your prayers. We got it this time, I believe.
Justin?
Yep.
You hear me?
Hey, we have it?
Yep.
Awesome.
You?
There it is.
Yeah, we made it. We fixed it.
Super laggy.
Yeah.
Is that laggy for you, Dan?
Yeah. 100%.
Better? Is that better?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's better, I think.
Yeah. So sorry about that. I'm here and ready to talk about some esports law.
Cool. All right. So I think you're coming in good. So guys, forget about everything else that just happened. We're gonna start all over.
Right now.
This is Justin Esquire from Jacobson Firm. They're out of New York. And this is also my co-host, Dan, aka Wardog. You guys all know him at Wardog on Twitter. We're bringing on Justin tonight to talk about esports. Like I said, guys, he is an attorney, so it's a pretty interesting topic to talk about. Now, Justin, I know you said you're a member of the bar in the state of New York. You're vice president at the Jacobson Firm. You also advise entertainers, professional athletes, esports gamers, streamers, and content creators. Tell us a little bit more about yourself besides what I introduced you as.
Well, yeah, I mean, thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it. I'm sorry about the little technical difficulties, but glad we were able to figure it all out. So yeah, as you were saying, I've been an attorney for almost 6 years now, and for about the first 5 years, I was very involved in the music and major professional athletes like some NFL and NBA players. And about 9 months ago, kind of esports kind of came to my door. I've always kind of been a gamer all of my life. Always loved FIFA and Madden, and I had my StarCraft fixation, and StarCraft 2 came right at the time law school happened, so it definitely had some late nights after the library playing StarCraft 2. And I kind of explored the area a little bit and came to realize that there were definitely a need for some more professional, some more reputable people that may not have came from this endemic of they've kind of grown up in esports, where they're more used to the more traditional entertainment and music and motion picture world that esports is getting thrust into, with these major professional team owners and major celebrities buying in. Things are really coming front and center when you see it on a Friday night on TBS in New York. that's when it kind of all hit me that this is a huge thing, and there's a lot of opportunity in it.
Absolutely. I know that's something cool for, especially for someone like yourself, like an attorney, to be able to get into esports, especially with the big amount of growth that's happening, especially in the PC world. Console, we're seeing a big increase now, especially with Gears of War. Obviously, there's a $2 million tournament, about 6 different events, not including the regional events that they had. So it's something that you definitely want to jump on board, especially if you're an investor, an organization, and now, of course, like yourself, an esports attorney. Now, tell us a little bit about what you do specifically with esports. Like, give us some examples for everybody that's here.
Yeah, so primarily most of the work has been representing and advising professional gamers, as well as some organization owners on contract and IP matters, most specifically kind of copyright and trademark stuff. So a lot of the work has been negotiating player contracts, which is kind of the bread and butter of the relationship between the organization and the talent, and it really, depending on how long the agreement is, really has long-term implications for where they can go and, how everything proceeds. And, additionally kind of advising on some of the trademark matters, such as protecting their gamer name or their unique team name and the associated logos and jerseys and all that stuff. So that would definitely be most of the work I do. And, in the more recent months, through, my connections in the fashion and other kind of lifestyle brands, I started to see how, they're interested in gamers. Some of these, fashion companies, some, watch companies I'm talking to, like face care products, like anything that you kind of really see on screen, stuff on their hands, sunglasses, some of these non-endemic brands are starting to get interested in seeing how they can bring their product to this new demographic. So, that's kind of been some of the more recent stuff I've been doing.
Okay. That's pretty interesting. The fact that you said face care product sparked my interest, because I do use face care product. I don't want anybody to judge here. I could show you a whole bunch of different things.
You gotta do what you gotta do. We can't all look pretty naturally.
That's terrible that I admitted to that.
As we get older, we need these things,
Absolutely. Beauty takes time. I get that. I agree with that. So that's actually a very interesting thing. Now, a weird question, since we're on the topic. What would you like to see, or what kind of sponsors or companies do you see jumping into esports, in a shorter period of time, say in a month or two, a year? What company or organization can you see jump into it?
I think that, it's just going to continue. You have Mercedes and Audi and McDonald's, like Gillette, all of these traditional Fortune 500 companies, really trying to get imprints on the biggest events. So I think it's just going to really kind of continue. You obviously have the traditional all the electronics, all the mouse, the keypad, headsets, all the chairs. But I think that, like I was saying, something that kind of draws attention to what you see on the screen, that's not just a headset. Gloves, gamer gloves is going to be big. Some people wearing like kind of masks, like almost that like Bane mask that kind of regulates your breathing, I think that there'll be interesting things because you want to kind of look unique and not just someone sitting in a chair with this headset on, You want to kind of maybe have your setup looking a little bit different. And I think that that's where different brands can kind of come into play. Even if you have like a big Coke or Pepsi machine behind you, like, that's something that I'm sure would be novel to a lot of brands. So, yeah, so I definitely see that coming.
Interesting. Dan, did you have any questions for Justin?
Yeah, so like kind of when during your intro you were mentioning that you have like some experience with some we'll call them like traditional sports athletes. Like what kind of parallels do you see in like the realm of so-called traditional sports and esports, and kind of like what relations do you kind of see there as far as your skill set goes?
I think that it really kind of comes to working and handling talent. Whether you're shooting a basketball, whether you're singing a song, whether you're painting, as you see the artwork behind me, it's or your video, or you're playing CS:GO or League of Legends. Like It's just kind of managing talent's needs. You know, a lot of them need to just really kind of focus on the everyday grind of competing, the practices, the scrimmages, the appearances, and you're just able to kind of handle the other stuff, making sure that okay, you know what you're doing with taxes, you know what you're doing with visas, like you're making sure that they're taken care of in that aspect, that they don't sign anything that potentially could hurt them in the long term. So I think it kind of really applies to talent in general, which is I think really nice about it. That whether you're gamer is whether you're a football player, whether you're a fashion designer or a celebrity stylist, you still have these kind of similar needs. You're just kind of in different fields of the world.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it was a very natural progression, especially as esports kind of got a lot more similar to the traditional sports with, you have physical trainers and you have sports psychologists and, these really highly specialized professions just for esports. Like that, I think kind of is very important and shows a lot of what's going on there.
Very, very cool. Now with branding, I know branding has been a big discussion, especially amongst the big players. Certain players are already starting to make their own brand, whether it's a logo, whether it's their own shirts, anything like that, especially also branding with their gamer tags. There's also team names. Explain to us a little bit about the importance of trademarking those things.
I mean, that's kind of the basis of everything. At the end of the day, what your brand is, what your gamer tag is, that's what stands out to you. That's what people know you as. That's what's on the back of your jersey. You're not Michael. You're NJ Cubano. It's like you kind of have this persona of its own. It's kind of like the one with the WWF, where it's like you're not Dwayne Johnson. You're The Rock. Like you have this standalone persona that has the villain for months and then becomes lovable and is the champion and then loses. It's like there's this whole story where you're finding behind this particular character that's totally different than Dwayne Johnson, the person. So, really kind of realizing that you need to make sure that what you're basing everything on is protected. You don't want to kind of do something that's too similar to something else that might hamper your ability to maybe design clothes or to do your own licensed mouse brand, where you do a collaboration with a headset company where a special gamer designs his own headset line, limited edition things. So if you don't kind of have the proper structure in place, you might not be able to enter into these deals because you might not actually own the name and the brand the way you think you do. Or there might be some other competing entity in the space already that had a name before you. You now can't use it for this, and you lose all the credibility and everything that you gained through building this brand. I was kind of looking at Gambit Gaming versus the character Gambit. They probably own it for comics and certain merchandise toys, but they probably don't own it for gaming tournaments or mouse pads. But what if you start going into T-shirts and hats? You don't really know the extent of what Marvel has in those realms. So, you have to just be aware of that and how that might impact you.
Now, I have a question from the chat. Wicked Crazy, he said, what's the most annoying thing legally about esports outside of contracts?
I mean, I think that a lot of people are having issues with visas and tax stuff. I've gotten a lot of players, like, they don't realize that, you make this wad of money from a tournament, you need to kind of allot a percentage of it for Uncle Sam or, whatever country you're from. So while you think you made $20,000, actually you only netted, 60% of that, whatever it kind of comes down to, depending on. So, kind of come to the end of the year and you have this wad of money that you made competing or from sponsors or Twitch donations, or streaming, like any of these combination of income, and you didn't realize that you might have had to file your taxes to begin with. I know 24, 26, 30-year-olds that are like, tax? What do you mean I never filed my taxes? Like, they just kind of see what comes out of their paycheck and that's that. So imagine like 19 and 20-year-olds who are just kind of figuring this all out, and it's like they're doing this, they're on this one, and on this one. They don't even have time to think about putting aside a percentage to pay taxes at the end of the year that they're going to owe because they made all this money. And then you have interest and penalties, and you start running into issues. So those are probably the two biggest things that I've kind of seen and heard about.
Yeah, those are two good things that we actually had. I think it was World Best Gaming for the first event of Gears of War for this season 2. They actually had, I think, 1 or 2 different players that had an issue with visas. So that's definitely something that is an issue whatsoever. Have you dealt with that personally in regards to visas with players that you represent by any chance?
Yeah, we work with Up Council, who handles immigration for different talent, musicians, and gamers. So we work with them. And yeah, like you said, the biggest thing is if you don't kind of have enough lead time, because you never know how quick these government organizations are going to work and different holidays. So, that's when you start to run into problems like what happened with World's Best Gaming and kind of what happened with the Overwatch League, the preseason, that one of the teams just couldn't compete because they just couldn't get it all. And that probably means code word was we couldn't figure out the back end stuff quick enough. So it's kind of like you have to prepare that, okay, like I need something in this amount of time. I have to leave enough leeway, because even if I do the expedited processing that doubles the cost, you still might be cutting it close because you may have to interview with a consulate, or you may have to do some other kind of step. So, you have to kind of be aware of this stuff and leave enough lead time for it.
Absolutely. Now, the other thing you said was taxes. Now, I'm almost positive most players have problems with their taxes because, 1, they're probably not putting enough money away, or 2, they're not filling out their forms the right way. And, once tax season comes up, these guys are stuck with a huge amount of money that they owe back to the taxes. Now, for you personally, have you ever had an issue with something like that in regards to somebody that you represent?
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty common thing, and it's pretty avoidable if you just kind of realize that, like, you're making income, and when you make income, you have to allot something for taxes. And usually you're like, oh, I just made $1,000. Let me just put it in my pocket and let's keep going. And as long these major companies, or just really any company, they keep records. They, send W-2s. Everything's on the books. There's records of all these transactions. So at the end of the year, when they submit their taxes, there's a record that they paid you this amount of money that's attached to your Social Security number. So, it's out there. Whether it takes them 2, 3, however many years to find you, they're going to find you. It's the IRS. They will get their money, and whether you're superstar celebrities, you see all the time DMX, Lauryn Hill, like all of these guys, like IRS this, Rick Ross, like it's pretty much half is people not handling their IRS properly.
Yeah, I think people underestimate the IRS. And since you were saying like celebrities, pro athletes, doesn't matter, whatever it is. I know the biggest one recently that got caught, and I don't know if you probably know more than I do, was Floyd Mayweather, especially out of not his Conor McGregor fight, but the fight before that. I know he made over, I know it was $150 million, whatever it was, but he never paid back his taxes. So now they're coming after him for that. I don't know how a guy like him, especially with that amount of money that he made, actually thought that something like that would just disappear.
It just doesn't quite. You think that crosses Floyd Mayweather's mind? Like, that's his accountant and his business manager and his personal, like that's their job. Mm-hmm. Like, that's really what it comes like. Someone like that is like, he just wants to box. I guess that kind of goes back to my initial point of where we all fit in, is that they just need to focus on shooting the ball. They just need to focus on the 8 hours of scrimmaging. They can't have to think about, oh, did I put a third of the money away that I made, each month? It just kind of becomes something that doesn't even faze them because they're not used to it. It's not kind of part of their daily routine at all. So I don't even know if you kind of even realize that, like, that didn't happen, Mm-hmm. I don't think he's like, oh, guys, don't pay the taxes on the money. Like, let's get away with it. Like, I don't think that's what happened. So, yeah.
Now that you say that, that is true. But regardless, especially since he's paying these people, the fact that he even got to that, and being that he's a professional athlete, that's just something you don't want to deal with, especially with the publicity now these days, how it flies. Now, Justin, I wanted to ask you if it was okay if we brought on Cody. Now, Cody is one of the owners of FableGG, like I said, a professional esports organization. I wanted to bring him on here to kind of bring him into here so that he could talk to you directly, and have Dan and I in here is kind of like, putting out questions there and talking. But I wanted to see if you were available, because I know you said you were kind of on a time constraint, or I could be wrong.
Yeah, let's do it. I'd love to.
Awesome. Okay. So let me bring Cody in here, and like I said, he is an owner of the #1 pro team in Europe, which is pretty cool. I know Cody very, very well, and I spoke to him about the idea, and I thought it'd be pretty cool. Having somebody like yourself and somebody like him could probably generate some good conversation, as well as Dan and I being streamers / esports players. There he is. Awesome. All right. Oh, he hung up.
It was a party.
Okay, well, as long as it's not me that's only one with technical difficulties, I feel better.
I just feel like somebody walked out of my party.
Yeah, not cool.
Not cool. That was just a tease.
There you go. Am I back?
Yep.
All right, he's back in the party. The party is back on.
There it is. All right, cool. So for everybody that's watching, this is Cody, aka Gorable of FableGG, #1 esports team right now in Europe for Gears of War 4. These guys have been killing it. Cody made an awesome pickup of these guys. He was actually on the All Access Esports Gears show last night, which is obviously a huge accomplishment. And I wanted to bring him on here to be able to talk to Justin Esquire from Jacobson Firm, as well as Dan and I, here just to listen and just to generate some questions or concerns that we have. So Cody, Justin, good to have you both here. And let's start with some questions. We'll just open up the floor to whatever it is.
So I actually have a question that I know like people in the chat want to ask, but they don't know that they want to ask. So maybe more towards Justin, because it is more of a legal question. Obviously, in like the gaming realm, having what we call your OG tag, which is like your name without anything tacked onto it, is like super important, whether it's getting it on Twitter or on, any of these social media platforms. Is there a legal route that you can take to own the property to that name on all platforms? And if so, kind of what's that process? Just for like people who are thinking of trying to build a brand, because streamers, that's basically their brand, is their name. So like how would one kind of get that process going?
Well, yeah, I mean, initially you would kind of want to do what I kind of say is like a trademark screening search to kind of see the lay of the land and, what's kind of out there for this mark already that you're trying to choose. And then I would also kind of just do like a Google search where you check if there's someone that has it on Twitch, someone that has it on Twitter, someone that has it on Facebook, these major Instagram, these major platforms that you're going to want to use. So, you're checking the records of what's actually registered, as well as seeing kind of what's just out there in the social media realm. That way you can make sure you kind of have a unified, brand throughout from all the platforms. And if it is protectable and you can register it, you to register it, say for, entertainment services, gaming, video game competitions, all these different ones that some of these organizations and players have been choosing, it then gives you kind of rights against people that may be not using it for that purpose. I know Twitter.
Example too, not to interrupt, but look at the name of our org. It's Fable. I mean, we all know there's a huge video game named Fable. So we've had the last year to go super slow and go through the right channels to make sure everything we brand isn't just Fable. It's Fable Esports or FableGG or Fable Pro. It's some sort of trademark that, we've filed for, that we've gotten the clearance for. I mean, we can't sell anything as Fable. We never will ever be allowed to ever. And it's made clear to us. It just will never happen. And that's the end of the story. They own everything that's just Fable, because that's what the brand is. So even though we're in the video game realm, we can use the word Fable, but it's got to be Fable something, Fable Esports, FableGG, Fable Pro. It's got to be something different. Otherwise, you can get in big trouble. And we've had, I'm not going to say exactly what happened. We've had some contact with the companies. They're kind of like, hey, we know we're aware of what you're doing and it's fine, but be careful is basically what they've told us.
Yeah, I mean, it's very important that they're, as part of being a trademark owner, you have a duty to police the mark and to, to give letters and, official correspondence to people like you who could potentially be diluting it or otherwise tarnishing the rights. So it's like, yes, you have to make sure that this difference is always clearly done in a certain font, like whatever kind of the parameters of it are, so that there's no confusion. So that people don't think that what you're doing with your team is related to the game and vice versa. So yeah, it's a very important thing for you to, especially if you're starting an organization from the beginning, to almost see if it's clear before you kind of take it. Like some of these more generic, great sounding names, there's a reason they sound so great. They sound so great to you because they are great names and you've heard them before, and that's why it connects. So, you're lucky that you're in a situation where you're able to, I guess because you're in Europe and, you have this kind of secondary meaning with such a big reputation in the market, you're able to distinguish yourself. Where if you were a more up-and-coming brand that just started yesterday and, you might have a much tougher time getting the concessions that you're getting.
Yeah, I think the big thing too is like when people start an org, I mean, if all else fails, I mean, the biggest thing you can do is reach out to the company themselves. Like, don't be like that's kind of what we did just to make sure, and there wasn't any issues, and we haven't had any yet. And it's just like I said, it's like Justin was saying, it's clearly everywhere your logo is, everywhere you're putting your name, and it's not just that. It's the term that you have. It's your brand. Like, our brand isn't Fable, it's Fable Esports. Everywhere it's Fable Esports. That's just what it is, because it has to be like that. And if we ever want to, like I said, all of our apparel obviously has the word esports under it. You can see on our jersey, I don't know if you can see it, but anywhere there's a logo of ours, it's got esports under it with Fable, just because, we have to separate it like that, or, you can get in trouble. It's legit. Like, that's their brand. They own Fable everywhere in gaming, that generic term. So, I mean, we went through a lot of thoughts on when we originally started not using the name, but we cleared everything we had to for like 3 months before it, and everything was good to go. And there's a lot of these orgs that, if you look right now, that are out there, and if they actually do become a viable business that is worth, even if they become net worth like 6 figures, which I know it doesn't sound a lot, but if they start becoming relevant, you can't just be called. I'm trying to think of, a popular term right now that's used. I don't know. I mean, like, there's some out there that's just like, they don't understand. You can't just call yourself,
you call yourself the best gamers and expect
to own Blackout. There's a bunch of games called Blackout. You can't just start up an esports or called Gears of War. Like, all these names are generic terms, but somebody owns the right to them. Like you were saying, if it sounds good, somebody owns that trademark. Somebody's got it somewhere. It's in use. You just got to make sure you have some sort of, if you're going to do it, make sure you have that adaptation. And the biggest thing is just, having, something after it, at least all the time from the beginning, from the start. You're never just calling yourself this, that, or whatever in your official terms. And, we're okay with it, and plus the game's dead. So kind of okay with that too. They're trying to come back a little bit here with the card game, but we're kind of okay, good because that game's going away, or has been away for a while. But yeah, I mean, just got to be careful, and people will learn the hard way. I know I'm not going to name any specific terms on here, but I know there's some very, very big orgs that have had issues with their trademarks once they became popular, and after they get these 7-figure investments and things really start to go down and they start really, really looking into things, there's issues that arise, and sometimes they don't even end up getting that investment. At least what I've been told from some of them is because you legally have to rebrand yourself. They find out at the end of the day, or these, the biggest thing is a lot of these orgs aren't legit businesses. Like, we found out the hard way. I mean, nothing happened, but we filed online, like, we're LLC and everything. And we got everything. We thought we were good, and we went to go get the corporate bank account and all that stuff. And then we're like, well, they're like, no. I'm like, okay, well, what do we not have? And, you have to get a physical operating license, and you have to get the right avenues of all that license and everything. It's not as simple as going on, or LegalZoom or whatever, and filing it. You have to do it yourself or get somebody to do it for you with your actual estate, or you're not going to have the right stuff at the end of the day, most likely.
Well, I'm glad that you learned that, and I think that you got to be, this is kind of what I'm trying to preach, and what my kind of stance is on all of this. It's preventative. It's like you said, why are you going to invest all your time, all your money and energy into building a brand that you might not end up owning, and you might not be able to do anything with when it actually matters? So if you're starting from the beginning, you need to find out these things. Like, yeah, maybe if as you were starting, you said, oh, Fable Gaming, let's see if they're okay with it. And if they're like, oh, no, you can't do it, then you wouldn't have gone with the name. You would have just been like, okay, we like the name, but we can think of another one. We're creative guys. Like, we can think of something else that works for us. And, I just kind of see these like kind of generic-y, cool sounding, your team awesome. Like, like what's so unique and
that's actually an awesome team name, FYI.
Yeah, but it might. I mean, that might kind of be a good team name because it's so generic and out there. I think the really unique ones like Unicorn of Love, I think is marvelous.
Unicorn of Love? Yeah, I'm out.
Yeah, no, they're a great League. They were a great League of Legends team.
I thought that was a joke.
No, that's that they were a very big powerhouse European League of Legends team.
Just a great team.
Love. Wow.
Yeah. And even the players' names were absurd. Like the mid laner was Power of Evil. It was great. that team was fantastic. They came out of nowhere and they just blew up the scene. It was great. And then everybody was like, wait, Unicorns of Love? So when Pick'ems came out, nobody took any players from that team because everybody thought it was a joke. And then they just rolled people.
That is wild. I thought that was a joke.
Nope.
That's interesting.
The other thing too I'll say is, when it comes to legal advice and it comes to esports, you get what you pay for, honestly. Going the cheap way, a lot of these orgs don't have, let's be frank, 99% of them don't have the money. They started up and they're younger kids. If you're serious about it and you have the money and you're going to invest it, you get what you pay for. Like I said, we learned the hard way, doing the whole, let's try to do it online. And it was a good start. We got EIN and all the stuff we needed to get everything started and everything issued. But to get the actual operating license to where you can actually your contract holds worth that you do with the players, your contracts with your sponsors, to get it to actually be enforceable, you actually have to have the correct operating license and the correct every avenue. And the best thing you can do is just consulting with somebody who's knowledgeable in the field. And yes, it's going to cost money, but at the end of the day, it could end up costing you thousands and thousands of dollars going the wrong way, getting bad advice.
Yeah, or losing it, like you're talking about those investments that they're just we just can't invest in it because you're not investable, really. If we're investing in the brand that you've built and you can't really own and monetize the brand properly, then what are we really investing in? The players, we know about the esports player carousel where, you're in one team and 2 weeks later you're in another, and then you're looking for a team and, So you're not really investing in the talent as much as you are the team's brand and what they're bringing to the table.
Now, one thing I wanted to ask, Justin, especially for most people that don't even know, where to start when it comes to this, but in regards to trademarking, say, a team name, an organization, a gamer tag, what would be, I guess, the first step, or what would be the whole process in general? Because I'm pretty sure most players, especially the younger ones, have no idea that this is even a thing or that you have to do this, especially if you're trying to protect yourself.
Well, as my friend here said, you should consult, someone, a professional or attorney, but that's what they do, who handles trademark and IP matters. And the initial step would be what's called a trademark screening search, where you're searching the relevant databases, the USPTO, state databases. If you're trying to do international stuff, which most brands become, you search, England, and, if you're an English-speaking brand, you search UK and Australia and maybe EU, depending on where you think you might expand. So you get an idea of what's out there and how to best frame your application, which is kind of what your brand is. Like you were saying, Fable Esports. You'll see, there's a lot of Fable, or there's a lot of ambition in this category. So now we have to make our application Ambition GG. So like that's always going to be our brand. That's going to be what we're going. That's what we're going to get on social media. That's what we're going to protect. And then you are different enough potentially that you can be okay. Like with your team. So after that, if it's clear, then you would file a trademark application. Depending on what countries you operate in and where you plan to. U.S.-based ones, you should do USA. You may want to do Canada, just because it's another big English-speaking market, and there's a lot of North America kind of competitions. But yeah, I mean, those would kind of be the initial steps to getting it all going.
Okay. Well, no, that's it sounds, I guess, simple or sounds easy, but I know that's like something a lot of players don't even know exists, or they just make a team name, or they make I guess like a gamer tag, and they don't even know that there's so much legal stuff behind it. Another question I had, just because it's a huge issue, I've personally never had an issue with it. And I could say that for my whole team is, in regards to contracts. Now, contracts are always drawn up from every organization or team that I've played for, and they're legit. We've always followed them. Like I said, I've never had an issue with the contract. And one thing that I've seen a lot, especially now these days with Gears of War, is, players breaking their contract because, whatever it is, they're not getting paid what they think they should be, even though they usually ask an absurd amount, or they get another offer and they're like, hey, you know what, let me drop these guys real quick, even though I have a signed contract, and go play for these guys. So I don't know, that whole thing becomes a little complicated. Now, what can you say for organizations or teams out there that are signing these players, and these guys go ahead and jump ship? What can, I guess, orgs do to prevent something like that?
I mean, all of it is kind of the basis of the contract. It kind of comes out. Obviously, you don't want players to breach their contract and to go and play for other teams and compete against you. But ultimately, this stuff kind of becomes a balancing act of what it's worth. Are you going to retain an attorney to send cease and desist letters? And if they have an attorney, back and forth, and you're going to bring them to court, which could take how long? Maybe much longer than the player's career. So it kind of comes to a balance of how valuable the player is. I mean, if this is someone who's the top of the, if you have the LeBron of the game and he jumps ship to the rival, and now you lost a lot of sponsorship value, you lost a lot of social media output, your brand is really impacted to where you're no longer relevant almost, maybe it's worth it that you have to be like, no, like the way player contracts work in the NBA, and there's a lot of stuff with the NBA and ABA where you didn't like the contract in the NBA, so you drove them to the ABA and got a better contract there. But the courts kind of ruled that, no, you can't be forced to work at a place, but you can't then compete against them. Like, you don't have to play here, but you can't play over there. If you're going to play anywhere, then you have to play where you're obligated and contractually there. Ultimately, a lot of these players are pretty replaceable, and, not to say there aren't those that stand above, but, the lifespan of the player, the amount of, just the new kids that are getting it and getting into it professionally, it's just constantly every day. So, it depends on how valuable the player is to them. I don't know that many teams that are going to spend six figures or whatever it costs, $50,000, $20,000 to chase after a player, unless unless most of their kind of value is based on it, which I think is a rare case these days.
Yeah, now these days, I would say now these days it's just easier to let the players go, especially if they're breaking contracts or talking to other organizations. My issue personally, and I'm saying this from a player perspective, I'm not even, I have my team raw talent, but I'm not, an org owner officially, I guess you could say. So it's funny, most people ask me, like, why do you care? You're a player, you know what I mean? You're just an esports player. It just bothers me a little bit because then when I was playing, it made me look bad as a player when I'm talking to different companies or, organizations, like I said, anything, sponsors, because you have these players who are ruining the reputation for esports, in general. So I get what you mean. It depends on the value, and you don't want to take them to court. But when does it stop? And I'm asking you. It's a hard question, but I'm asking you, like, when can you stop? Like, how does that stop? Because I mean, it happens every month, probably.
Like if you value your reputation and your word and what you're about, it's just a value. It's an instilled value. People are always going to feel a certain way about business and do what's in their best interest. And then other people may be like, this is what I negotiated. This is what I'm going to hold up. I'm a man of my word kind of thing. I would say that that's the rarity, especially when it comes to business. But you would hope that the people you're working with and bringing into your team kind of buy into it and are on the team. And that's what you hope for. Most of the time it's not going to happen. But every once in a while you do find those loyal guys that see a bigger picture in what's going on.
Yeah, which it's true. I guess it does come down to who you're working with, and I guess the organizations and also the players have to do a better job of screening each other and so forth. But Cody, for something like that topic, what can you tell us as an organization owner? I know you've dealt with good, you've dealt with bad. Give me the best example and give me the worst example.
I mean, the best example of like just knowing what you're doing and like consulting with people, that are certified in the legal realm is, we had an issue. I'm not going to say what org, what game, but player wanted to come to our team, was under a contract, and they wanted an absurd buyout. Well, all it took was asking for articles of incorporation for that business, and they released them. A lot of these orgs, even if they're big, like, yeah, they got 100,000 followers on Twitter. They're verified on Twitter. They got sponsors. You'd be surprised that most of them aren't actually a real business. And all you got to do is ask for the articles of incorporation, and they're going to panic a little bit because, I mean, that's honestly what it comes down to is the contracts, there's really no weight in holding it if it's not an actual business, and that's how we got the player that we wanted was, they were trying to hold them contract hostage, and, just kind of got to ask them like their contact info and, try to go to all the other, the correct avenues professionally. Like those are all professional questions. They're legit questions that you have to ask when somebody's asking for a buyout. Because at first we didn't ask, and I was like, okay, a lot of times the best with orgs and players, I mean, a lot of times you can come to an agreement that's reasonable for both sides, even if it's not the number in the contract. And so we were going to kind of do at first. But then, it was kind of trying to bully us because they are a bigger sized organization. And then I did some digging and talked to a friend who knows, who's licensed in the legal realm. And they said, I've done this research and, ask them for this, this, and this, because I don't think it's a real business. And sure enough, it wasn't a real business and the player could just walk. So that's exactly what happened. And, and we even told them that, like, look, we're not going to say anything, but this is what it is. And we're going to, this is where to go.
Business. We're not going to disrupt the rest of your contracts and get them thrown out, but we're going to take who we want.
And that's what and I told the players that were left here, I'm like, look, if he tries to hold you under this, like, just ask him for this and you'll be fine. Because trying to hold somebody for, 5-figure salary in a game or 5 figures for a game that, I mean, it's just absurd. Like, the team's not going to generate that much money at all. It's just ridiculous. And these people, it's partially the player's fault for signing something like that anyway. Like, I mean, our buyout, it's not confidential. I really don't care. I mean, usually when we have a player our buyout is 2 months salary we're paying them. That covers us for that month that we were just paid for. And, that the cost of that team having to break in another member, it's not that much, honestly. That's perfectly reasonable. There's situations with different games where you get to like the huge orgs. I'd consider ourselves like a mid-tier org. We're not like we're like a B. We're not an A or an A plus like these giant ones out there. But when you have these giant ones out there, you're going to see 6-figure buyouts all day. And that's legit. I mean, they have the money and the cash flow most of the time for that to happen. And most of the time there's some sort of compensation that goes between the org and the player and the org where you don't see it and you don't understand. Like when you see somebody that releases a player, they're not just releasing them. Like the players usually get something out of it. And then when that player is getting signed somewhere else, usually the org that's acquiring them is giving some sort of compensation to the other org. It's actually, when you get to the higher levels of like the org tiers, it's actually pretty smooth. It's not as bad. It's just like the ones that gets real ugly are the smaller ones that Like, I mean, there's nothing really enforceable. That's the problem with the contracts. And I've had issues with that, as you know, when with our Latin American squad with from last year, where one of the players wanted to leave, and we ended up releasing them. I didn't want a player anyway playing on our team that didn't want to be there. But if I wanted to hold him in the contract deal, I could have. But it's like Justin was saying, it's not worth the team's not bringing in enough revenue for me to get an attorney, send the correct letters and everything, and especially internationally, it can get really ugly too. It's hard to enforce somebody that's in Mexico when you're in Illinois, but it gets ugly, and a lot of times if you're just reasonable, like we're reasonable guys, just be reasonable with the player. The players can be reasonable with the org. You're going to find a resolution at the end of the day, because everybody wants to walk away happy and walk away not feeling burned, but the players take a lot of, in my opinion, take for granted the org's money. They don't really necessarily understand how expensive it can be at the end of the day, to pay salary to send you to an event. And if an org does try to hold you in the contract because you're trying to leave after one event, and that, let's say your team, like we'll use Gears for example. Let's say there's a team that hypothetically placed in the top 6 at this last event in Dallas, right? And they were under an org, and they start going around and they're trying to seek out the best offer. I mean, that's going to happen, but if that org would have had the proper contract in place and everything, and that's a big thing for that org, they could have held them, and you can't. I mean, it's just hard when you're small. So Gears is hard because that's the way we're most experienced, and you're not going to see it be as ugly. But you get into the bigger games, you're going to see some ugly things can happen in the middle tier org range that don't have full-time legal consultants and everything. So I mean, just got to protect yourselves, players and orgs do. I mean, I think if you're a top player in your game, I think you're insane to sign a contract, no matter how big the game is. If you're getting paid salary, if you're getting whatever type of compensation, if that org is taking any money from you of your winnings or any money of whatever revenue share, anything, you're crazy not to be consulting with somebody before you sign a contract. Honestly,
very true.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of been something, initially that brought me into it, was my understanding that a lot of these players just kind of sign. They're just so anxious. They're like, oh, someone wants to pay me to play video games. And then some of the team, like, not to say both sides aren't guilty. I've heard of some team owners like, just sign it, let's go. Like, we need to get you in the house and training. Like, just sign it. And, I one time spent 3 hours on the phone going through a whole 20-page agreement with a major team, with a player. Friday night, by the time Saturday night comes, we don't hear from him. Sunday's like, dude, I'm so sorry. I just signed it. The guy was just like, we just got to go. Like, we don't have time for this. And, to me, it was like, I showed you some huge issues, like them deciding if they want to pay for transportation. Like, what if you lose the tournament and they said, okay, well, great, you're staying here. Have a nice day. Like, it's at their lead. Are they going to do it? Probably not. But you know what? If the contract doesn't say that they're going to pay for your transport, or you're going to mutually agree in writing beforehand, then they don't have to. And ultimately, the fact that these kids sign these agreements that are so long and usually prepared by attorneys, really kind of puts them in not very good situations. So.
Yeah, you're crazy. These guys are crazy to be signing, like, unless it's a top tier game like League of Legends or something like that. I mean, let's be honest. There's maybe one team in Gears of War right now that probably has high buyouts on their contracts, but they've won almost every single event that's ever taken place. I mean, you're crazy to be signing any contract with any type of buyout that's over $1,000. Honestly, you're just crazy. If you can't afford to get yourself out of that contract with the buyout yourself, don't sign it. Worst case scenario. That's kind of how my advice on it.
Agreed. Yeah, like if you do get an insane buyout, I think you should kind of do a little bit of a double take on that. I know I personally never had an issue with that, but I know we had something come up like that in Gears of War, which it was 6-figure buyout, if I'm not mistaken. It did end up getting cleared out. I think I know who it was, but I'm not going to mention that. But yeah, it was a 6-figure buyout, which I thought was wild. But they were all signed in the first place, which I thought was weird. Because if you're hitting 6, I don't know. That's rough. You know, I think I've signed.
You don't even get that much money. Like, it's
Yeah,
insane.
it's wild. I think the highest I signed was like $2,500, which, as it was, that was extremely high. But
Yeah,
uh, yeah, I've never had an issue, thank God. But yeah, that was really high for me. I was always in like $600 to like $800 range, which was always
Well, we're
cool.
in that, like, esports, let's be honest, is still in its infancy. And I truly believe in the franchising and the league structure that's happening in other games. And I can tell you some small games that we're a part of that, um, if we have the opportunity, we will go into it. Like Vainglory, for example, look into it, the franchising system they're putting in place. Paladins, the WESA, like, there's legit, like, that's what's going to happen in all games. Eventually, I'm not saying right now, I'm not saying 5 years from now, but like 10 years from now, it's going to be like the Overwatch League. It's going to be like League of Legends. It sucks because unless I find a huge investor, let's be honest, there's no way I can compete in that. But hopefully, by that time where the games we're in are getting to that point, we have that type of investment behind us where we can continue with it. It's just kind of a gamble, but that's the best way for the players to be taken care of, the orgs to be taken care of as well, because there's revenue share models built into that. It's not just like you're paying a crazy amount of money to be a part of it, but there's a lot of things that go into it. Like, I'm a firm believer that mental health and gaming is something that is so underlooked and it needs to be tackled by somebody. Somebody needs to create something or an avenue for gamers, because let's be honest, a lot of us are emotional. Like, honestly, it happens. Like, the weird things people say, it blows my mind. It's like, you think they're not right in their mind, and it'd be great for them to have a place to go talk to. But the league structure that would have that kind of stuff in place, and as you see with minimum salaries and health benefits and housing and that kind of stuff, I think that's the future of esports. And I think, like, give it 10 years, 15 years. I know it's a long time, but it's going to take a lot of time to get to that point and more money being put into esports. But that's the way to go. And I hope it gets to that point. As much as, like, right now, if it happened, I wouldn't be able to do anything. Fable would go away unless somebody invested into us. But, still think that's the best future for esports, is getting to that point.
Yeah, and it's funny that you brought that up, especially with the mental health awareness. That's something that I personally think is huge, especially with esports. A lot of these guys, especially with the PC world. I know these guys are playing, for $1 million. They're playing for $50,000 just for one guy, etc. That's a lot of stress, and that's a lot of, time and effort and gaming crazy hours, 8 to 12 hours a day, maybe even more. I mean, console alone, these guys are playing, 8 hours plus a day. It's like a job, and sometimes even more. So I think mental health is definitely a big concern with esports, and people don't really think about that, especially at events. When you guys are playing for a lot of money, when you guys are on main stage, you see the guys that, one, step it up, or two, completely shut down. Whether it's them personally, whether they don't have the backup there, they don't have their teammates helping them, they don't have a coach, a family member there, being able to get them into the game. That's a whole completely different avenue in regards to esports that I think that you brought up, Cody. It's something to huge. And the reason why I thought it was a great idea is I know somebody who works with the network that I previously worked with, Katrina Major. She does a whole bunch of mental health awareness, and I've been trying to get her to come over to esports, which is pretty cool. She actually works with the Center of Suicide Awareness, which they also do mental health as well. And they're also trying to get into the esports world. So the fact that you brought that up, I kind of had to put it out there, which I thought was pretty cool. But like I said, that's a completely different avenue. I'm sure we'll hit that eventually.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. Like, a lot of these League of Legends pros and stuff like that, I know. I mean, you're talking 75-hour work weeks at least. And I know we all think video games, it's not work, but when you're getting paid, close to 6 figures a year with winnings and your salary, and you're sitting there for Monday through Sunday, 10 hours a day, I mean, they need better help being coached on, like, what you should be doing to balance that out. And they don't get that. I mean, we've seen some recent things in the news where some, I don't remember the guy's name, but we've seen some crazy flip outs on Twitch. Like, these professional players are flipping out. Like, they're not, there's no way that there's something snapped finally. And I think a lot of it is the fact that, I mean, you'd go crazy after a while. For 365 days a year, almost 10 hours a day you work. I mean, for some of these gamers that are playing these games, and I know some of them in Gears of War, they're not playing it because they love it. It's not their favorite game. I mean, they're pissed half the time they're playing it. It's stressful. It really is.
Yeah, it's work. It's literally work. It's not fun. It's not a game anymore.
Yeah, which I don't like. That was something that Immortal Spawn especially, and I only say that because Rob and I were probably one of the most professional when it came to the Gears of War community, and it showed. But we played only so much to where it was fun for us. You know, once it got to a job, that's kind of where we cut it off. You know, we would play till we were happy, you know, we had a good time. But then when we started to see somebody get upset, and I used to get upset, I used to get tired, you know, we just gaming so much, you know, we would cut it off because it's like, it's just not fun. You know, if you're doing it and it starts to become work, Rob used to tell me, all right, guys, that's it. It's over. Like, we're done for the night. Like, this isn't fun. We're not having fun anymore. We're kind of just doing it because we're doing it, because this is what we have to do to make money. So I definitely think that's another, you know, I guess idea or aspect that comes up with esports that people don't seem to get. You know, are you doing this for fun or is this work for you? Which some people it is work. You know, if you're making enough money, that's great. You know, it's worthwhile. But I think especially on the lower tier, you know, gaming, you know, you definitely got to do it for fun. You also compete a lot better when you're doing it for fun. If you're working, you're so stressed out, you don't even care at that point. You get to an event and you're like, whatever, I'd rather just lose already because, you know, I don't even want to be here. I'm tired, I'm stressed out, you know, and I pretty much hate what I'm doing at this point. So I think that's another good, you know, idea that you brought up. Is there anything else that you guys had before I let you go? Just because me and Dan, I got to wrap up this past weekend's 2K. Even though we're going to talk about Optic. Optic won. Justin, if you don't already know, Optic Gaming has been winning every 2K in Gears of War right now. They're one of the top organizations, I think, internationally right now. So Dan and I are going to wrap that up. But before I let the two of you go, Justin, is there anything else that you wanted to say? Any shout-outs or anything?
Well, thank you guys for having me. And as Cody said, definitely, you know, players, organizations, owners, you got to get an attorney or a professional or some other competent third party to look over what you're doing, because if you don't, you're going to run into problems if you really want to do this properly. If you want to run a business, esports business, sports business, music business, it's a business for a reason, you know, and if you don't do it properly, you're going to end up shooting yourself in the foot. And, you know, that's kind of my last take on everything.
Absolutely. Cody, before I let you go, man of the hour, what do you got for us?
Yeah, no, I'm just, you know, glad to be on here always, talking Gears, talking games, and, you know, everybody that's watching, keep an eye out for what we're putting together with Fable. Like, we partnered with the biggest YouTube team for Gears of War, Team Essence. We partnered with Deadly Cute Girls in Latin America, probably the biggest female presence. We have the Latin American team, we have the EU team, we have an all-female team, and we're really, you know, you'll start seeing it, you know, it all came together in the last couple of weeks, but you'll start seeing in the next month or two us pumping out some really serious, unique content, and we're looking to take over the game when it comes to content because nobody's doing it, and it's an avenue we have to build a brand, and we're gonna go all in on Gears this year, so you'll see a lot from us.
Absolutely. All right, gentlemen. Well, I appreciate you guys coming on the show as always, and thank you, and have a good night.
You too.
Yeah, thanks. You have a good one, Gabe.
Later, guys. Then there were two.
And there were two. The duo is back in action.
The duo is finally back. How could I fix this? Okay, hold on, Dan. I'm going to call you back because I'm not liking this dual screen. All right, there it is.
All right, you just got my beautiful face now.
That's what I was saying. I was like, I don't want to do this whole window stuff. All right, guys. So, like I said, that was Justin J. Esquire from the Jacobson Firm, esports attorney. Make sure you follow him on Twitter as well as his LinkedIn, and as well as Cody Gorable, FableGG, esports gears professional organization owner. I want to thank the two of them for being on here. But now it's down to business. Gears of War Rostermania is about Gears of War. I got my man Dan over here. So before we get started, let me fix the cameras around. I do have a whole bunch of I guess pictures and so forth for everybody that doesn't really know Gears that well. So I'll pull it up on the screen for everybody to see so that it makes it easier for us to talk about and easier for you guys to kind of keep up with. I think we're all set. All right, so this past weekend's 2K, it was on December 17th. Obviously, I had the bracket up here for you guys. We had Optic Gaming up top, Echo Fox at the bottom. You know, obviously, you guys know, you could tell the champion was Optic Gaming. They beat Echo Fox 2-0. Dan, tell us a little bit about this. You know, what's your thoughts on the 2Ks and Gears of War in general right now with how Optic Gaming is so dominant?
Just you know, as an Optic fan, I'm happy, but as an esports fan trying to see stuff grow, I'm kind of upset that it's so static. It's kind of upsetting when you can literally look at a bracket and you can, in Gears of War, you can probably, like, if there was like March Madness brackets, you could probably get 100% like a good chunk of the time. Like the amount of unforeseen upsets is like so minimal that just the part of the bracket that you have on the screen now, like, not many people wouldn't have gotten 100% on this. Maybe some people would have picked Ghost over Echo, but maybe like that's it. That's the only thing on that image that I can see somebody even possibly getting wrong. So as an Optic fan, I'm happy. As an esports fan trying to see the scene grow, I'm a little upset at how static it is.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And like you said, that I guess that's a really good thing that you brought up, was looking at the bracket. You know, most people like us, we kind of know, you know, what's going to happen. But for most people just watching it, or, you know, just know a little bit about it, you could kind of look at the bracket and you know what's going to happen. You know, yeah, that's probably a good thing for the teams that are winning. You know, we have a dominant Optic Gaming, we have a dominant Echo Fox / Ghost Gaming. I mean, we've been seeing Ghost Gaming and Echo Fox play each other every weekend. You know, one of them is going to make top 2 every week, just like Optic Gaming has been making top 2. And I also have up on the grand finals, you know, Optic won 7-6 on Reclaimed and 7-5 on Harbor. And this is a question to you and anybody watching, what can any team or Echo Fox or Ghost Gaming specifically do to finally take down Optic? And yeah, you know, most people will say more practice or more, you know, I guess going over thing or breaking down footage. I still feel like that's not enough. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I don't think it's enough right now. I think Optic Gaming has just been so dominant since Season 1. But in your thoughts, Dan, what do you think a team can do?
So I'm not going to lie, and I'll admit my failure here. When you asked me to come on the show earlier in the week, one thing I really wanted to do was go back and watch the games from Optic's perspective and try and get a sense of what are they doing to make themselves so different. And kind of what I wanted to focus in on was like the mentality, and kind of not just like the being positive kind of mentality, but the mentality and you know, what goes into making their decision mid-round. Because I really think Optic wins the game in mid-round. They don't win it off the break, and they very rarely have to clutch it up at the end. They win the game in the middle of the round. And what I noticed was that if Optic finds themselves a step behind in the middle of the round, a lot of the times they'll play with the mentality that they don't care about the hills. Like a lot of teams, if you're playing Foundation and you have your home hill and the enemy team wins B, like the obvious thing to do is see where you have the advantage and push their home or push B. Like sometimes Optic just sets up and gets a lot of kills, and then they'll go take that advantage, and then they'll reset up, and then they're just set up to keep slaying over and over and over again. So I think some teams have to take the pressure off themselves and just not care about the hills so much so early. They're not gonna make it's not going to make or break you if the other team gets a 30-point lead when they only have 80 points. Like, you just have to not care so quickly, and you have to just kind of play execution a little bit and just get some kills and take control of the map.
Yeah, which most people, especially if you don't know escalation and execution, would say, oh, well, you respawn. But, you know, once you get to the later rounds, you do have the 16-plus second respawns. And I agree with you. I think most teams kind of focus, you know, on the hills. They get so nervous, like, oh man, we're down by 100. But if you think about it, you could trip cap in 2 seconds, whether you just slay out the teams. And I haven't watched too much of Optic Gaming's matches, especially with the 2Ks, but I can say and agree with what you said that Optic Gaming just slays out. I mean, these guys are killing everything. They'll set up on one hill and just completely kill people and kill people in waves. And eventually, they'll pan out, they spread out. Their mid game, like you said, that's pretty spot on. Their mid game is insane. They'll kill everybody, they'll spread out, they'll set up, they'll kill everybody again, and then they'll trip cap. I mean, these guys, from what I've seen, they're not the most vocal squad, but does that mean anything? No, I mean, these guys are winning. Obviously, you have Billy, who I don't even think he talks. You have Summons, I don't even think he talks. You have Explosives, he talks. You have Kenny Bounce, definitely he talks. He's probably it's kind of hard to say, the in-game leader. I'm not too sure. I feel like it's Kenny or Explosives. But yeah, you have these guys, and they just have it down right now, and it's really hard to kind of pinpoint what exactly they're doing compared to other teams. Not to say that Echo Fox and Ghost Gaming haven't been doing well. These guys are consistently placing top 2, top 3 all the time. So obviously they're doing something well, but I'm sure it gets annoying after a while to constantly come in second, third place behind Optic Gaming. Is that something that you see happening throughout the season in regards to actual events?
When it comes to events, I think season 2 is just Optic domination again. I don't we can all make fun of him and make memes about it, about how Explosive says these spotlights do something to me, but they really do something to that team. Sure, we had the whole allegiance thing, but let's be real, that's pool play, and that, in the grand scheme of things, how much weight does that actually hold? When you see Optic, on the late rounds on Saturday and, all of Sunday, those spotlights do something to that team. And I just don't know. When I went back and watched this 2K, they almost lost that reclaimed map. And I don't know what it is about that team, but literally Icy just has to say, all he said was, we're going to take this one round at a time. We don't lose any more rounds. We win this map. And that's just what happened. Literally the next round I think the next round was a 35-second round. I don't know what clicks in their heads, but whenever they decide we're taking this seriously, or whenever there's a spotlight on that team, they turn into some sort of monster that nobody has the silver bullet for.
Absolutely. And I mean, you're right. And that's something to talk about with Allegiance beating, them at the last event. Now, that meant absolutely nothing. Yeah, Allegiance beat them. That's great. Optic Gaming was taken down. People, were like, oh, man, is this the real deal? Is Optic going to lose this? They get on main stage, and from then, they just tore it up. And the guys ended up winning the event. And after that loss, I'm sure nobody expected that. Maybe a top 4 finish, top 6, whatever it was. So I definitely agree with you that the spotlight does something to them. I mean, these guys beat themselves up. They lose to Allegiance, and then they just come back and win the event. There's something I've never seen before. I haven't seen, complete dominance like Optic has done. And the only reason why we talk about them so much is because these guys are winning. I mean, they're winning everything. Every week, we're here. Last week, same thing. This week, same thing. Who's to say that next weekend it doesn't happen again? Who's to say next event doesn't happen again? Obviously, 2 powerhouses that we could see overtake them eventually. It could be Echo Fox or Ghost Gaming. Between those 2 teams, Dan, in your opinion, who would be the team to overtake Optic Gaming?
I think if they had the face-off right now, the race to who can be Optic, I think as of right now, in this very moment, I think it would have to be Echo Fox, just because in the past we've seen Echo Fox struggle more against Ghost Gaming than they have recently, even though this past 2K was really was a good series between the 2 teams. But I think Echo Fox is a little bit closer. I think Ghost Gaming has, you hear over and over again that they have problems that they need to work out with, and whatever those internal problems are, I think once they get over that, they turn into a whole new team. And I have, I have friends within that organization, and I'm just being honest where, I think Echo, as of right now in this moment, is just a little step ahead of them right now.
Agreed, and I would have to agree with that as well. I was going to say Echo Fox. I figured you weren't going to say Ghost. I mean, Ghost is obviously, very skilled. Those guys are raw skill that they have. The leadership has always been like a question with me with Ghost Gaming, whether it's Sleepy, whether it's, Ribs. Not to say that either one is bad to do it, but it's just so up in the air. It's not as, I guess, solidified as Optic Gaming. And of course, Echo Fox, a franchise. I mean, I always say it, the guy's been playing since before I've been playing. But Echo Fox has what it takes to beat Optic Gaming. They definitely do. They have the experience, they have the leadership, they have the skill, they have the smarts. It just hasn't happened yet. Will it happen? I want to say yes for Gear's sakes, so that we don't see an Optic, landslide again this season. But the way it's looking, Optic will probably continue, unless something crazy happens to them. But I think that's it for the 2K this past weekend, obviously, because there's really not much else to say. Optic wins again for everybody that's in here. So switching over to the North American Pro Points standing. Thank you to Prodigy on Twitter, guys, for doing everything he does. That's where I use these pictures that he posts up. Obviously, we have Optic Gaming at first. We have Echo Fox second, Ghost Gaming third, E United, Pure, Speedrunners, Eternity's team, and Vanquish sitting at that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then Fire and Ice at 8. Now, it's so hard to even... I guess 1, 2, and 3 are kind of set in stone in regards to, the placings. But who can you see? Oh God, it's so hard. Who can you see kind of shake it up, Dan, from these teams, these top 8 seeded teams right now?
I'm a really big fan of the new Fire and Ice squad, so I think they move up at least 2 or 3 places. I would not be surprised to see them as a top 5, top 6. I think that new squad has a lot of potential. I like a lot of the players on there. Your mini me Sam is on that team.
Of course.
I love him as a player. Hessa's on that team. I love him because of how vocal he is. Firearm is a really nasty power weapon player. So I really like that new squad, and I wouldn't be surprised to see them at least bump up 2 or 3 spots.
Agreed. I can see Fire and Ice there. We still have Vanquish. I mean, Vanquish has been, a good team. They actually made a team change. It's just so hard to tell right now with Gears, especially in the state that it is right now. E United, the 4th seed. Can we see them there? Technically the original Allegiant squad minus KL. They picked up Lava. Can you see? That's the most interesting squad to me in regards to the top 8, especially their 4th seeded. Can you see them break top 3, top 2 realistically?
I think they're pretty solid in 4th. I think they stay in 4th for the rest of the season, but it's like they're a solid 4th.
That was easier than expected.
Well, I mean, I can't tell you how I do it, man. I just read the tea leaves. And these aren't my thoughts. I read the tea leaves. I just say what they tell me.
That is awesome. I agree with you, though. That's the whole reason why I asked. I think right now we see that set 3, whether it flip-flops between 2 and 3 or even first with Optic Gaming. I think that's kind of where we're set in stone. But obviously we have another 2K that's coming up. No, actually, is this Sunday's 2K off? Because
it's Christmas, so I don't think there's going to be one.
That is true. I don't think there'll be one this weekend, so we're going to have to wait till the weekend after, which is fine. That gives us something, better to talk about than Optic Gaming winning another 2K, which I'm fine with. But I think that's it for the night. We did go for a while with Justin and Cody, which I thought was awesome. I appreciate the 2 of them coming on.
Oh, apparently
here.
It's in 2 weeks.
Oh, in 2 weeks. Okay, so 2 weeks is the next 2K. That's good to know. So like I said, we won't be talking about 2Ks for the next 2 weeks, which is good. We'll get a little break. We'll bring in a little bit more, and Dan and I will do something, I guess, a little bit more interesting, or to maybe something Gears related or not. But like I said, I think that's it. I want to thank Justin J. Esquire for coming on the show, Cody as always, and my good man Dan, aka War Dog, for being here. But I think that's it. Dan, before we cut the show, is there anything else that you had to say?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked. So last time I was on here, I said I was going to wear a new hat every time I was on here. Today I have a reason for mine, so I'll flip it over real quick. Got the HCS hat going on just to celebrate the fact that Halo is now officially an MLG esport. Once again, we're back at home, so I'm happy for all my Halo brethrens. I'll see you guys. I can't go to Orlando, but I will see you guys at MLG Columbus, and I'm super pumped for those guys. But other than that, I'm happy Halo's back in MLG. Optic wins again, and esports is still rolling. So that's all I got.
I like it. So that's actually a good idea. So maybe next week, Dan and I do a little bit about Halo. You know, maybe we'll try to get a guest on here, players, org owners, whatever it is. But that is a good thing that you brought up, Dan. Obviously, MLG brought back Halo. That's where it should be. Halo is one of the originals. I know you're a huge Halo guy. You know the whole community. You know 343. So I think that'd be actually a pretty cool idea. So everybody that's in here watching this, you know, maybe next week on Gears of War Rostermania, Thursday, 12/28, 9 p.m. Eastern, maybe we'll throw a little bit of Halo in there. We'll talk about MLG and so forth of the pickup that they had. But again, I think that's it for the night. Guys, thank you guys for watching. Make sure you subscribe on my YouTube. Follow me on Twitter at NJ Cabano. Follow Dan at WarDog. It's real easy. War Dog. Real simple, as well as him on Mixer. And yeah, I think that's it. Again, thank you guys, and have a good night.